Good evening, viewers. My name is Jodina Hicks. I'm here with the Safer Foundation, and it's wonderful to be back with our CAN TV viewer audience. This is the Safer Foundation show, and the Safer Foundation is a wonderful nonprofit in Illinois, headquartered in Chicago, Illinois, with the mission of serving people with criminal records through the prisoner reentry and employment process. We have a primary focus on employment, training, and placement for men and women and young people with criminal records. Each year we work with about 10,000 people a year through direct services, which includes education, GED, training, including a college scholarship program we have, employment training placement, follow-up supports to employers, as well as some really exciting, innovative new program models, including housing, mentoring, and other direct services. But tonight we're here to talk about Safer Foundation's policy work, which is central to the work we do. Our policy work focuses on eliminating the barriers to employment that men and women with criminal records have. The felony conviction we'll hear a little more about tonight really impacts one's opportunities in the employment market and in getting professional licenses. And Safer Foundation has some very exciting news to share with you tonight, because we just recently had a bill passed last week, which will become law January 1st. And our wonderful policy educator organizer, Michael Zweig, who's also a professor from Roosevelt University, is here to talk tonight about Senate Bill 1050, which he just worked tirelessly on and saw a great victory last week. So,
Thank you.
Michael, welcome to the show.
Thanks.
So tell us, what is Senate Bill 1050 and why should we be excited about this?
Well, Senate Bill 1050 is, at this point in Illinois law, the best tool that people with criminal records have for a clean slate. The the inherent unfairness that people with criminal records feel when they have served their sentence and paid their dues, paid their debt to society, is that they run into roadblocks getting a job. Well, Senate Bill 1050 makes available to literally tens of thousands of people who have terminated their sentences the opportunity to get a certificate of relief, which is essentially a certificate of good conduct if they've been out for 3 years and have had no more problems with the criminal justice system, or a certificate of relief from disability, which helps them in getting occupational licenses with the Department of Professional Regulation. Mm-hmm. So the two certificates are both keyed on proving one's rehabilitation, and on that proof then the circuit court will give a certificate literally with a finding that the person is rehabilitated, and that is a leveler of the playing field, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Okay, now why is there this difficulty in getting employment due to the criminal record? Is it because of the background, or are there laws in place? Why is it that people with criminal records have this hard time and need this law?
Well, it's two things. Number one, there is an institutional barrier which comes up in the laws and regulations of the state. Number two, there are roadblocks just simply because employers have a reluctance to hire somebody with a criminal record just because they have a criminal record. So we have laws that in many respects say if you have a criminal record you can't do X, Y, and Z. And plus we have sort of the stigma attached to having a felony.
Mm-hmm. So employers are reluctant to hire. They're afraid to hire in some cases. So
right,
tell us about that.
Well, that was something that we addressed in the bill. Mm-hmm. Is most often the thing that you'll run into is that an employer will say, well, we're not going to hire you because you have a criminal record. What this bill does is it gives employers immunity for being charged with negligent hiring or supervision, so that if somebody who has a certificate of rehabilitation under this bill gets a job and there is a problem, the employer is safe as a matter of law now under this statute, which is intended to take away that reluctance to hire.
So they're afraid of being sued, and this is a protection to them. I think we have a caller. Go ahead, caller.
Thanks for taking my call. Regarding the certificates of good conduct, does this apply to all offenders who have made different offenses?
Great question.
Yes, it does not. It applies to many. There are actually a very limited amount of exclusions. If somebody has a Class X offense, they are not eligible for a certificate. Below the Class X, if they have aggravated domestic battery, aggravated drunk driving, or a crime for which they have to register after their sentence, like rape, arson, crimes against children, that type of thing. Beyond that, any felony that did not result in great bodily harm or permanent disability is now eligible for this relief.
Mm-hmm. And that's compared to some of the legislation that's on the books. Currently really applies to only first-time nonviolent offenders only. So
Right.
This really opens up the floodgates to about what's the percentage of people with records we think will be eligible?
Well, I don't know if I can quantify it in percentages, but I will say this, is that we went from maybe several hundred people a year who went through the process, and now if we go back 3 years, which is the good conduct period, we have literally tens of thousands of people who have offenses that are eligible, who have been released in the last 3 years from Illinois prisons.
Very good, very good. Thank you, caller. And we have another caller. Good evening.
Hello, how are you two doing today? This evening.
Thank you. Good
Question
evening.
I have to ask is, what type of assistance can you provide a person who, let's say they're in graduate school or undergrad and has a misdemeanor, domestic violence record? How can you help them? Because, you know, when the schools discover this about a person, they tend to give you a hard time irrespective of whether you are observing the policies of the school or not. Okay, that's my question.
Okay. Well, let's say this twofold. From a programmatic perspective, Safer Foundation has various programs that help people and support the career plan, and when that includes going to school, excuse me, our staff will help be the liaison and point of contact to the school, just like we are for employers, to help serve as a reference and to help cut through some of the barriers that we find that do exist, some of them biases, and many are not necessarily in writing. It really comes down to a character reference. And so in working with Safer Foundation staff, coaches, mentors, we're able to do a lot of advocacy on behalf of our clients. We'll hear a little more about that from one of our reentry coaches in a little while. But from a policy perspective, this really leads into something we wanted to talk about with licensure as well.
Right, and you know, that's the certificate of relief from disability under this bill allows somebody with even a domestic violence offense to prove that they're rehabilitated. And once that's done, if you want to seek occupational licenses, you're basically on a level playing field with anybody who would seek a license who does not have an offense.
Great.
Yep.
Good. And what about, in this case, a school having a policy?
If the school has a policy, they're really in no more different position than any other employer. What happens is if you go through the process of proving that you're rehabilitated, then you get, under our new bill, a court-issued certificate, which basically means that as a matter of law, you're rehabilitated, and that it then puts an employer really has a great burden to show why you shouldn't get the job if you're otherwise qualified.
Very good. Good. So, Michael, what do you think this means for people that you serve through your work?
Well, this means that, number one, there's more hope, which is important. The opportunity to prove one's rehabilitation is not just good for the community, but it's good in terms of removing the stigma that people have who have felonies and have so much trouble getting jobs. And I think that it bodes well for families and communities to put people back to work.
So we've said a few times, certificate of rehabilitation, the court deems rehabilitation. What does it mean to be rehabilitated? And why is this even a concept for people coming out of prison?
Well, the primary purpose for proving rehabilitation versus a particular ability to do a job is to address public safety. So when the courts and legislators are looking at how do we protect public safety, the question is, well, is somebody rehabilitated? And did, in fact, the sentence that they served do what it was intended to do, which is to teach them a lesson and move on with your life? So rehabilitation from the statute standpoint means, is it consistent with your rehabilitation to do the job that you're seeking? And is there anything against the public interest? So, for instance, if somebody comes in and says, well, you know, I've been clean for so long, I don't spit on the sidewalk, I never got a speeding ticket, I pay my bills, and so on. If there's no evidence to the contrary, the court will deem them rehabilitated.
Okay. Caller, thank you. Go ahead, caller.
Hi.
Hi.
Yes, I was listening to you all talking, and he was talking about the Class X felony.
Yes.
What if a person has a degree, 2 or 3 degrees, and although they have a Class X felony, and you have this 1050 bill, and they can't find any positions available to them in the field that they have a degree in, you know, but they are rehabilitated. So, I mean, how do they expect for the people to get a job and move on with their lives and support their families if they don't have a job?
Well, that's the central question that we have, and that's our challenge in seeking this kind of legislation. What's important to understand, and although it's unfortunate we couldn't address everybody with an offense of all kinds in this bill, is that from a legislative standpoint, the people who are in the Capitol voting on these bills are also looking to protect the public, and the general view so far is that the Class X felonies, those represent by and large people who are too dangerous to allow to prove that they're rehabilitated. Whether that's right or wrong is a separate question, but that's politically where we are right now.
And I would just say 2 things to that. That's not a concept SAFER agrees with. If we had it our way, everyone would have the chance to go before the court.
And that was, in fact, what we started out with. That is what we sought in this bill to begin with, and it was really a question of negotiation and accommodation.
But the 2 other things is, number 1, not being able to get a certificate of rehabilitation does not mean someone with a Class X felony will not be able to get employment.
Right.
SAFER Foundation works with anyone with a criminal record, no matter if it's Class X, minimum misdemeanor, to having sex offense backgrounds, violent backgrounds. We have employers that we've established long-term relationships with. We're not always able to get people the kind of employment that they want initially, but we are able to get people on a career path, getting into the employment market. And I have not seen people with any kind of background not being able to get employment. We have employers who are very good to work with. Sometimes it takes a little longer than we want it to take, and sometimes the job isn't quite the fit we wanted to have initially. But we will still do job placement, work, education support with anyone with a criminal record. Number 2 is, to the caller's point, how do our elected officials expect people who've had a Class X or some other serious background be able to get a job? That's what we need our viewers, our callers, to call your elected officials. Call the elected officials for the state of Illinois and let your voices be heard.
Right.
Because our elected officials are hearing from other voices. They need to hear that voice. And we have another caller. Go ahead, caller.
Hello?
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hi. I would just like to say that first I would like to just congratulate and thank SAFER for helping me.
Oh.
I've been a part of SAFER since it was at 10 South Wabash.
Oh, wonderful.
And had it not been, and I've been through SAFER since it was 571 West Jefferson because I hadn't learned my lesson. But I want to just say that SAFER is there to help those that come through the door that's ready to help themselves. And had it not been for SAFER, there's no telling what I would have done. SAFER helped keep my feet on the ground, and it helped keep me focused at a time when I wasn't really sure what direction I was going in. So SAFE is still being in existence. I know funds is low and resources are not as well as they used to be, but you all have a lot of good people at SAFER that really reaches out and help people in a whole lot of different ways other than just jobs. Sometimes you just needed someone to just listen to you, and SAFER has been there for me personally. And I just want to say thank you to the people at SAFER.
Oh, thank you so much. So what a nice call to get. And I mean, you hit on such an important point that our clients do a lot of hard work themselves. We are a partner to our clients, but when people come to SAFER, they really have to drill down and do some work that may not always be comfortable, but you know, our inspiration every day are the men and women that come through our doors that really truly want to have a second or third or fourth chance and be able to be a strong father or mother, be able to contribute in a productive way and have the chance to do that. We believe it's never too late. So thank you so much for your call. I'm going to wrap up with last two questions for Michael Zweig. And first, I want to really note that this Senate Bill 1050 is the first law of its kind in the country that provides protection to employers from negligent liability. As Michael was saying, people, many times employers are afraid to hire, they're afraid to get sued just in case something happens. So we know we didn't do this on just SAFER alone. Did we have sponsors to this bill, and who were the champions behind it that we should make sure our viewer audience knows?
Well, in the Senate, our sponsor was Senator Kwame Raoul, and in the House, Barbara Curry, Representative Curry, and also we had, in which this speaks to the last piece of the bill, Protestants for the Common Good helped us in proposing to Senator Raoul, which was then really very well received all around, the last provision of the bill, which is allows people with a criminal record to go to the Department of Professional Regulation before embarking on the expense and time investment of getting educated for a license and taking the test, to ask the Department of Professional Regulation for free if they will review their background, their particular background, and they're entitled to an advisory opinion, which basically says your record is not a bar to going ahead with the licensing education, or it is. And it's that is a completely reversal of the way it was. It used to be that you had to go down the entire road, spend all the money all the time, and then some people would just find out they couldn't get a license.
You would go to 4 years of medical
EMT
school,
training,
get a
right.
nurse's degree, and then find out you're not able to get that waiver.
That's correct, and that will not happen anymore.
Excellent. That is outstanding. So one last question, because we like the word free, and we're now looking at people going through court proceedings to get a certificate, to stand before a judge. How much is this going to cost? Do we have to hire lawyers? What's going to happen so that people can access this relief?
One of the things I'm most excited about this bill is that we are putting together a pro bono panel, a panel of lawyers who are interested in helping any applicant for a certificate of relief on a pro bono basis, free. We have the DePaul Law School Center for Public Interest Law supporting our pro bono lawyers, and it's really very exciting because that is the key to the courthouse, and that makes the whole system that we've set out in the statute very workable and accessible.
Good, good. So January
1st,
this
the bill will be effective.
All right, and we had great help from Governor Quinns' office.
Yes, we did.
And great help from Michael Zweig.
Thank you.
In moving this forward. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much.
Thank you for being on the show. And we have one more guest who's going to join us shortly. So we say good night. And once again, this is the SAFER Foundation show. We're located at 571 West Jackson, Chicago, Illinois. And our show tonight is on the expansion of the Certificates of Relief legislation. And we're here with a very special guest, Raphael Ward. Good evening, Raphael.
How you doing,
Good. A reentry counselor at Maywood's Rock of Ages Church, Vision of Restoration nonprofit. partner with Safer Foundation. We're happy to have you here.
Thank you.
So tell us a little about yourself and why you're here this evening.
I'm here today because of the new certificate bill that was passed, the 1050. It's just another good step for ex-offenders upon being released from being incarcerated. We talk about the rehabilitation process when one are released from jail, but when they go out to get a job, it's hard for them to get it. You know, sometimes they can't even get a license, you know, for some of the things that they have been to school for. So this bill will help a lot of ex-offenders move on, and it's just the first stepping stone. You know, we look forward to get better later on down the road, but it's a beginning.
So, Mr. Ward, tell us, have you experienced or seen firsthand discrimination or issues when people have a degree, a license, and cannot get access to that field?
Yes, I have actually worked with a client who has an engineer license. He only has one felony, a drug felony, and he cannot find a job in this field now. This is one bill that would be a great benefit for this individual. I was so glad to hear about it, that it was going in effect in January.
Okay.
Because he would be the first person I call.
Wonderful.
Because I can see him benefiting from this bill.
Okay.
You know, just to have a certificate saying that he have rehabilitated because he's been out 3 years now, I think it'll be a good change for him.
Okay.
It'll give him hope.
Good. Very
Yes.
good. How have you experienced life after incarceration, and what do you think this kind of bill would mean to maybe employers that you've dealt with?
I think it will give the employers a sense of ease, of knowing that they would not be responsible if something would have broken out within the company or the organization behind an ex-offender. Some of the challenges and trials and tribulations that I face, and I heard one of the callers talk about an individual with degrees. What I find, and I like when you talked about it's up to the individual, you know, Safer, we are here to help that individual make that change, you know, to transition back into society. And that's one of the most important things, is to go back to school and get education. But understand that since we do have a felony background, understand the barriers that we face. And we just can't stop. You know, I heard one guy say that called in about just listening to him. That's one of the most important things that we do as reentry counselors. When we have our mentor groups and we get a chance to talk with the individuals, they just get to vent and they get to see other individuals that's been through what they've been through and made it. Me, myself, as a product of an ex-offender, who have made it. You know, I wouldn't say I wouldn't take no for an answer, but I continue to strive. You know, I always got like that saying, when you get sick and tired of being sick and tired, you move on. You know, so as a result, I came out and went to school, got a degree. Yes, there was jobs that I was unable to get because of my background, but I didn't let that stop me. What I started doing is looking and looked at a career path that my background would be more conducive to what I'm going into, and that's why I changed my learning. I went from IT to psychology.
Okay.
Something that would help me with my background, and that's one way of facing the trials and tribulations and the barriers that we face as ex-offenders.
And now you're helping other people do the same thing. And one thing I would like to point out for our audience is, as Safer, we do the work and the partnering with the clients to become job ready, to get through education. We utilize mentoring, different supports. But what the employer sees on the other side, once the person is job ready, gets into our employer pool, is a first-rate worker. What we've experienced is Safer with some of our larger job opportunities, including with the city of Chicago. We've had opportunities to help support the work of the city through the summer job program. We had an opportunity at Raphael's site. We had 100% on-time attendance for these major projects, compared to city agencies and employers that are experiencing somewhere between 10 and 30% call-off rates. We have 0% call-off rate. On these two different projects that were long-term projects, we had 98% completion rate. You saw young people every day in your community coming to work on time, doing a wonderful job, and being recognized for that work by the city government, by the police, and by community residents. So I want to stress to employers that we have a first-class workforce. If you're looking for hard-working individuals who come on time, who contribute to the workforce, and who are grateful to be part of your company, we are the place to go for your hiring needs.
That's right.
And would you like to add anything to some of what your clients are contributing to the workforce?
Yes. One thing that I learned, like you mentioned, through the summer program when we worked with one of our partners, it built the client's self-esteem up so high. Now I see them since the program had ended. A lot of them still have enrolled in school. Some of them is still working on another job opportunity right now. And they just feel better. You know, they show up, they talk about it, and things like that. When that happens, it just make them feel better. So, SAFER is a great organization to have ex-offender with their re-entry back into society.
And you and Michael are both examples of why we are a great organization. And with that, I want to remind our callers on how to contact us. We have our phone number on here. Our main number is 312-922-2200, and our people there will be able to connect our callers with the right program or policy contact. If you'd like to contact Michael Swag on the policy side, 312-454-3385, and then in Maywood, or really to contact any of our faith-based sites, we have partnerships with 7 churches in the areas of high reentry neighborhoods that are serving those areas. You can contact Raphael Ward, 708-343-8298. And since it looks like we have a couple more minutes, I want to come back to Raphael if he would just do us the pleasure of telling us about where are the faith-based sites, in case we have viewers out there that are looking for a place to go to help their mother, brother, sister, or themselves.
Okay, we have actually quite a few faith-based sites. We have 2 locations on the west side. One located on Central Park and 5th Avenue at People's Church. And we also have another location on Central Park and Huron. The reentry council over there is Pastor Brown. We also have a couple of other sites. We have 3 sites out south.
Okay, that's all right. Trinity United Church of Christ on 95th.
95th.
We have St. Sabina at 79th and Ashland, and Ambassadors for Christ, 75th and Ashland. So thank you very much. You've been a wonderful audience, and we will see you next month.